the Championship, every single team is under so much pressure to perform. The stakes are so high in every single match in the Championship, and the margins are so tight in so many different games in the Championship, which can decide so much at the end of the season and decide jobs and decide the livelihood of so many people involved in each football club at the Championship. We're going to be discussing the pressures of every single Championship club going into the new season and just talking about who has the most pressure going into it and who kind of has a little bit less pressure. Now, as I say, every single manager, every single club is under pressure to perform to a certain degree. But there's definitely certain clubs that have more expectations and more kind of pressure on them going into the new season. If you're a Championship fan and you're not subscribed to this channel, then do hit that subscribe button. It takes 1 second to hit the subscribe button. And we do daily Championship content. So if you're a fan of the Championship content and you want to be up to date with everything in the Championship, hit that subscribe button. It takes 1 second, as I say. It'd be very greatly appreciated. And this is the place to be for Championship content. Also, drop a like as well if you do go on to enjoy the video. So we're going to be discussing every single club's pressures going into the season. And as well as that, we've got 4 different tiers. We've got you have to succeed. So you have to perform to your expectations. There's going to be question marks over the manager, question marks over the transfers, question marks over the players, question marks over the ownership if you don't succeed. In any of them, you are under serious pressure. Then you've got just pressure in general. You're under pressure, but it's not quite you have to succeed, but you're under a good amount of pressure. Then you've got a bit of leeway, so you kind of can finish in a few there. You can maybe slightly underperform and you'll still be in the job, that kind of thing. And there's not much pressure where you might almost have a free pass. There's not really any such thing as a free pass, but as close as you can get to that, so not much pressure at all. Starting off, we've got Birmingham City. Now, I think Birmingham City and Chris Davis is under a little bit of leeway, because with Birmingham getting promoted last season with 111 points, it's like, what do we expect next season? Like, the bookies have got them up in, like, right at the top of the division, up in, like, 4th place for the bookies. But then it's like, if they finish mid-table, are they going to get rid of the manager? Like, I don't think they would. And are the fans going to be really angry if they get like a mid-table finish in the Championship? I think they'll think, if they do finish mid-table, maybe it might be a little bit disappointing, but you'll think, we'll build for next season and we'll go again. So I think Chris Davis and Birmingham kind of got a bit of leeway in terms of where they're going to finish, because it's interesting, because obviously they're a new club getting promoted to the Championship. So as I say, I do think there's a little bit of leeway, especially with the record, breaking the points record with 111 points. That kind of plays into it as well, in terms of the manager as well, in terms of the credit that he's got in the bank. Blackburn Rovers, I think it's a little bit of leeway again with Blackburn, because they did really well last season to get within 1 game of the playoffs. And then you think, even if Blackburn finish like 17th, 18th, is it going to be an absolute outrage? Like, we already know the outrage is at the ownership no matter what. Like, that's kind of where the fingers get pointed straight away. Like, the owners are always under pressure from the fans because the fans don't want them in. But then as well as that, if Blackburn went and finished 18th, like, I don't think many people in terms of general Championship fans will be like thinking that's some kind of shocking season or anything like that, even though Blackburn did so well last season. Obviously, they've lost a few players, and most of their players are going to Derby as well as the manager. So we'll see how it pans out. With Blackburn, they're under a huge amount of pressure, Varun Ismail, with the Venkies, because I just don't think their expectations are anywhere near the playoffs, and I think they'll be in that kind of mid-table region. And if they're sat in there, they've got a bit of leeway in terms of where they finish in that mid-table region. Right, now we've got Bristol City, where I think, again, they've got a little bit of leeway. They did so well last season, but I just don't think expectations are going to be quite as high. They've got the old Barnsley manager in charge. And I think, as I say, if he gets a mid-table finish, it's not going to be like absolute outrage from the Bristol City fans, in my opinion. And maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think there's going to be an absolute outrage. And then it's kind of like building for future seasons if they kind of play some decent football and they show a few signs that they could potentially build. Because I just don't think they'll be in and around the playoff positions again, in my opinion. I think they had the chance, and I think they might have to head back down to Championship mid-table. Right, Charlton. I think this is the first one that we've got to put in not much pressure at all. Because realistically, Nathan Jones has just signed like a 5-year contract. He's just got Charlton promoted, which, at the start of the season, they didn't look like they were going up at all. Nathan Jones has done a ridiculous job there. He's not really under any pressure. Like, even if Charlton finish within, say they get relegated and they finish within range of the teams above relegation, there's no way Nathan Jones is going. I don't even think the fans are calling for Nathan Jones to go. The only way for him to be under serious pressure is if like Charlton are at like record-breaking low points and they're getting like left behind without a trace. That's the only real way I can think Charlton would be under pressure. So for me, I think Nathan Jones and Charlton aren't under much pressure at all in comparison to these other clubs. Now, Frank Lampard, now he has got a bit of leeway because the job that he did in terms of getting Coventry to the playoffs, when he took them over, they were like 17th in the table. But Coventry City have got a squad now that, in my opinion, is absolutely ready to at least be getting playoffs again at a minimum. They could even be outside for pushing automatic promotion. So you think then, if you're in a playoff battle, I think Frank Lampard will probably still be in the job. But then if you're out of the playoff battle, then Frank Lampard will have serious questions asked of him. Coventry have to absolutely be in and around that playoff battle, where I think maybe you can argue they have a bit of leeway because, they could maybe be anywhere from like kind of that top end of the playoffs to maybe like 9th or 10th, but still in the playoff battle. So they have a bit of leeway in that respect. But I think it's really time that Coventry should be cementing themselves in the playoffs this season. I think they've got a good enough squad. So much talent in that squad with Jack Redoni, who I think he'll end up staying, to be fair. They got Bobby Thomas as well. They got a really good central midfield partnership as well with Ben Sheaf and Matt Graham. They've got such a quality team. They should have pressure to at least get in the playoffs, in my opinion. Derby County, could I say not much pressure? I know you can say if Derby in the relegation zone, they'll be under pressure, but I even think if Derby in relegation battle next season, I think John Eustace has already earned the kind of respect and the credit from the jobs that he's done previously at Blackburn and Birmingham, and then keeping Derby up on top of that as well. I think even if Derby are sat in a relegation battle, which I don't think they will be, by the way, I still don't think John Eustace is under serious pressure. I think the fans are absolutely, I don't think there's absolute uproar. I think it's more of like, we'll trust John Eustace, and as long as we stay up and we can kind of build on that again. So for Derby County, that's what I'm going to go for. But as I say, I don't think they'll be in a relegation battle. Hull City, I think the new manager there is under pressure because, Hull is spending a bit of money. They always do, to be fair. Obviously, they only just stayed up last season, but I'm talking about more from the pressure from the ownership because the Hull owners really believe that they should be getting, challenging for the Premier League the way that they're moving with the managers, the way they move with Rossini. Ruben Sellers came in and did well, kept them up, did what he was expected to do, and then he's gone. And Hull just get rid of managers left, right, and centre, especially under the new ownership. So I think Hull City are in a situation where the new manager's under pressure when he comes into the job. Kieran McKenna, I don't know if it's you have to succeed, but I feel like I'm going to put him in that category. I think Ipswich, by succeed I mean they have to go up. Like I really do think that they're in a situation where they cannot not get promoted. You've got a team we're going to talk about in a second in Leicester, who look like they're going to get a points deduction. That's one team that you can really take out of the equation in terms of automatic promotion if they do get a 12-point deduction. Then you're looking at the other teams are like Southampton, maybe a Coventry. The other people then are calling Birmingham. But we don't really know who's going to be in the automatic promotion pitch. And then you think it's Ipswich's to lose. But in my opinion, I've said this in my other videos as well, I think Ipswich absolutely have to be winning the league or at least getting top 2 automatic promotion. So for me, Kieran McKenna and Ipswich have to succeed because they spent all that money in the Premier, 150 million or whatever it was in the Premier League. They've got a squad which is well capable of winning the league, and they've got to go ahead and do that, in my opinion. Leicester, I think you've got to say, I don't know if it's, I wouldn't say not much pressure because Leicester's such a big club in the Championship. Obviously, they've won the Premier League. But I do think they have a little bit of leeway because they always have that kind of, if they do, I'm assuming they get the points deduction here. They kind of have that in the back of their minds, like, we did get a whatever points deduction. And if they've got a new manager in, which is Danny Rowe, I think they've got to be patient with him and trust the process. And if they don't go up this season, they've just got to trust that, they can try and sort things out financially and build a squad that can compete in seasons going forward. But I do think Leicester will be up there come the end of the season because the squad, despite getting relegated from the Prem, is a very, very good Championship squad, even despite the fact that they're losing a few players as well. Middlesbrough now. Now, Rob Edwards, I think it's pressure. I think Middlesbrough is always a job where you've got to go in and do well. And if you're not in and around the playoff picture, it's just guaranteed pressure straight away. Like you're not setting yourself up for any kind of success because Middlesbrough are a club, as I say, they're always in and around the playoffs of the Championship. They got rid of Michael Carrick when they finished 10th, and they still took it to the last game for the playoffs, as bad as they were. Like if Middlesbrough aren't in the playoff picture, then there's serious questions asked of the manager. And Rob Edwards is coming in with, he's under pressure himself because, a lot of people have asked him questions now after the job that he did at Luton towards obviously the back end in that season in the Championship. A lot of people questioning his kind of capabilities as a manager, and Rob Edwards has got a lot to answer for in this Middlesbrough job, and it really just feels like it's make or break for Rob Edwards, despite, he got himself a promotion with Luton, which is absolutely wild, but still people question him, and this job will give us a lot of answers, I feel. So I think Rob Edwards is under a bit of pressure for that job at Middlesbrough. Right, Millwall. I think there's a little bit of leeway with the Millwall job. I feel like even if they're in and around mid-table, they'd be frustrated, but it's at the end of the day, like, are Millwall really going to be able to get into the playoffs. It depends if they keep their playoffs. If they keep their players, they've got a good chance of playoffs. Now I'm seeing that obviously Tanganga's got this release clause. We'll see what happens in the transfer market, but I still think if Millwall are in and around the playoffs and in and around the top half of the table, they should be fine. The manager will be fine. The fans won't be in absolute uproar, because at the end of the day, playoffs is just like Millwall getting playoffs is like Bristol City getting playoffs. It's like it'll be amazing achievement if they did get in there, which, as I say, it's very possible for Millwall, and I do predict they'll be in and around it. But I do think the manager, and there's a bit of leeway in general with Millwall, with the kind of club size as well, with the teams that they're up against as well. It would be a bit of a surprise, and if you look at the end of the season and think Millwall in the playoffs is crazy, because you look at the other teams that will probably be in the playoffs as well, teams that have been in the Premier League in recent seasons, and big championship clubs as well. Norwich City, I think Liam Manning's got a bit of leeway. I think he's got time at that job. I think the fact that he's gone from Bristol City is taking it is a bit of a risk, because he was very well thought of, very highly thought of at Bristol City. He is going to get money to spend, you'd imagine, at Norwich. He's going to probably lose Borja Sainz, probably lose Josh Sargent, you'd imagine. He's going to have money to spend, so he's going to have kind of pressure in that regard. But then it's his first season in charge. It's probably going to be it's going to be a big overhaul of players, and it's going to be a very different squad to what Norwich had last season. So you've kind of got a bit of time with that. Even though we thought that the old Norwich manager had time, but he didn't in the end, because he finished mid-table and he got sacked. But we'll see. I think Liam Manning's got time, and he's got kind of credit in the bank as well from the jobs that he's done previously to Norwich City. Oxford. Is Gary Rowett under pressure there? I wouldn't say he's under pressure there, but if Oxford are in the relegation zone, I'm gonna say pressure, because they start the season slowly. They got rid of Des Buckingham, and a lot of people ask questions when I think Oxford they were in and around the relegation zone. I don't even think they were in the relegation zone when they sacked him, and they start the season right at the start of the season, and then a couple of bad results, and Des Buckingham was gone. It proved to be the right decision. And with Gary Rowett, if they start the season poorly, could Oxford pull the trigger early? I don't think they would do, but you never know. But I think there's a little bit of pressure in there, because if Oxford start poorly, then there is always questions. John Mousinho, I just think not much pressure. I think even if he's in a relegation battle, which, as I say, Portsmouth, I don't think will be in a relegation battle next season. But John Mousinho is a guy, he might even be the longest serving championship manager. He's definitely top 2. Maybe I'm missing somebody. But he's definitely up there in terms of longest serving managers. He got Portsmouth promoted out of League One. So highly thought about that club. He's got so much credit in the bank. And as I say, even if Portsmouth are in a relegation battle, which I don't think they will be, I still think they'll be sticking with John Mousinho, because they did that last season where they were rock bottom. They had that terrible start and really difficult run of fixtures at the start of the season. They were down at the bottom with us. I'm a QPR fan, obviously. We were both sat at the bottom. Kept the faith in him, and they absolutely got the rewards of that. And I think Portsmouth will be patient with him, even if they do start poorly, which, as I say, I think Portsmouth will be fine next season. So I don't think there's much pressure for John Mousinho. Paul Heckingbottom, I think he's got pressure on him. The back end of the season for Preston was shambolic, just about stumbled their way to safety. And if that season had gone on for a few more games, Preston might have been the team that would have dropped in, because they were lucky in the end that they just about did enough from how they did earlier on in the season, which was enough to carry them over the line. And I think if they start the season poorly, they've brought in a few players, and fans are getting excited about the fact they've brought in quite a few players. He's going to have a bit of time for them to gel, but if Preston are down towards the bottom of the table, I think fans will turn on him pretty quickly with the fact that Paul Heckingbottom didn't do great there last season. So I do think there is a bit of pressure on Paul Heckingbottom in that job. Now, QPR, I think Julian Stefan, the new manager, has got a bit of leeway. I think, we're making a few signings, and it's quite exciting. I'm a QPR fan, obviously. The signings that we're making, we're signing Bengi from Reading, who was a very good centre-back in League One. And then Poku as well, who's got ridiculous stats, and so many clubs were after him. We've signed him as well. So there's quite a lot to be excited about with the signings that we've made. And we're looking like we're showing a bit of ambition. Now, do I think that's enough, we're going to go and get playoffs? I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening at all. I think we've got such a kind of if we kind of stay clear, we're just above the relegation zone, I don't think Stefan will get sacked unless we're really playing shambolic football and we're actually looking like we're going to get relegated. I think you've kind of got a bit of leeway there where you can kind of be anywhere between the playoff spots, which I don't think we will be, by the way, and then kind of towards down at 20th, and I think he'd still be in the job, so I think there's leeway there. And with it being the first season as well, we also had Marty Cifuentes last season, who started the season really, really badly. We kept faith in him, and then ended up getting us out of trouble, and we were fine in the end. So I think we'll be patient with the manager, and I think the fans will be patient. We always are with managers, and I think he'll be absolutely fine with a bit of leeway. I think that's kind of fair to put us in that category. Sheffield United, I think, I wouldn't want to put him in absolutely you have to succeed, but I'm kind of towards that kind of end. It's definitely top end of pressure to you have to succeed for Ruben Selles, just given the fact that if Ruben Selles doesn't start the season well, or they aren't playing great football or anything like that, things aren't dramatically different to what they were under Chris Wilder, or worse or whatever, everybody's going to point the fingers at, like, why do we even get rid of Wilder? Because if you're looking at this season, I think I've said this before, where I think if Sheffield United had Wilder in charge, they've got a better chance of going up this season. But Ruben Selles is more of a longer term project. But the question is, if they don't do great this season, will the fans have the patience with Ruben Selles, especially with the job that Wilder did before and getting the 90 points, 92 points without the deduction? You might be in a situation where Ruben Selles might have to succeed, and you have to succeed, I'd probably say, at top 6 minimum for Sheffield United. If they finish anywhere below there, I think Ruben Selles is under quite a lot of pressure, in my opinion. Sheffield Wednesday, I think you're in a situation where it's just not much pressure. Whoever's in charge, if it's Danny Raw, it's probably not going to be him. Whoever's in charge, it might not even be a manager. It might just be a caretaker. Because Sheffield Wednesday show no interest in... Chansiri show no interest in the club at all. So it's like, you've got to basically get a free pass where it's like, the club's a joke. Which is a pretty valid answer, really. So the new manager, whoever's in charge, isn't really under much pressure, because it's just like you're fighting a losing battle right now. That's what it feels like at Sheffield Wednesday. Right, Southampton. I think we'll still... I wouldn't say you have to succeed. I'm actually getting toward that category, because I'm just looking at it and thinking Southampton have got a very, very good squad. I know they've got 12 points in the Premier, but they've got a very, very strong squad. And I look at the other teams and think Southampton will be in and around there. I think they have to succeed Southampton have to be in the top 6. That's what I'm saying as success. If they don't get Premier, I'm saying if Southampton are anywhere below there, then you're in serious trouble, because Southampton should absolutely be right up there in terms of the Championship next season. So I think you can maybe put it in pressure. I think Will Still's got pressure, but then also as well, he's also going to have time as well, because I think it's going to take him a bit to get his ideas across to the players, and he's a manager which he's shown what he can do over in France. Let's see if he can translate that over in English football. I think he will. I back him, and I do think he's got a pressure to succeed, but I think he'll be fine. I think a lot of fans have a lot of confidence in Will Still. Right, Stoke City. I've got to put it in a bit of leeway. I feel like Stoke, it's just like, they've done this so many times, the manager merry-go-round, where, someone doesn't perform well, manager doesn't perform well, they get rid, they do it again and again and again. They need to stick with someone. And Mark Robins, in terms of credentials and history, he's got some good pedigree in what he's done at Coventry. Is a ridiculous job. I think Stoke need to give him time. I think even if they're in a relegation battle, they probably will end up pulling the trigger, let's be real. But I think he's got a bit of leeway, because, Stoke will finish anywhere in that kind of mid-table to lower section of the table. And with Stoke, it's just come to be the norm for them. So I don't think Mark Robins is under massive, massive pressure on the same level as these. But I think he's got a bit of leeway with the job. Right. Swansea City. Sheehan obviously came in and did a fantastic job. I do think there is a slight bit of pressure, because Swansea have made moves in the transfer market. I love the business that they've done. And obviously, with the business that they've done, it's going to build hype and build excitement for the new season and build expectations as well. Now, I think if you keep Swansea in the top half, Sheehan, I think he'll be absolutely fine. In the bottom half, we saw them got rid of Luke Williams. He had Swansea in 16th or something when he got sacked. It shows that Swansea aren't prepared. They're not prepared to mess about in terms of the managers. And Sheehan obviously was a caretaker manager, and then he's come in and got the job full time. You always have question marks whether is it just an initial honeymoon period when you kind of come in the new club and then that sounds a bit zesty, mate. But when you come into the new club and then do very well at the start, you then kind of have question marks over if you start struggling next season. It's like, do you have the kind of credentials to get your team out of that situation? Now, it all remains to be seen with Sheehan. We don't know yet. That's quite simply the answer. But I do think he's under a little bit of pressure. He's kind of in a little bit of leeway to pressure, kind of in between that kind of category. Ryan Mason. Now, I do think he'll be given time at West Brom, but he's under pressure. Like, as a new manager coming in, obviously he's worked with top coaches in his past with Spurs. But if he starts poorly, it's then like, is it a mistake bringing him in? Because you've got a manager who's got no experience, actual managerial experience. Well, really, he's managed a few games for Spurs, but question mark. And it's like the kind of expectations of West Brom as well going into it, because West Brom are a massive club in the Championship, and West Brom are another team like Middlesbrough, they should be always in and around the playoffs at a minimum. And you think if Ryan Mason gets off to a poor start, you're under pressure very quickly there. And West Brom's is a very big club, as I say. So I think it's definitely a pressure job at West Brom. But a very good opportunity for Ryan Mason, by the way, and I hope he does do very well there. Right, Watford. I've just got to put it in pressure. Oh, you know what? You could even be. You have to succeed. Now, what is success to Watford? Who knows what success is to Watford? Well, the pot says is basically get the playoffs, according to what they were saying last season, why they got rid of Cleverley. Like, you've got to put him in, you have to succeed just due to the fact that they got rid of Cleverley after them having a pretty average squad. He's brought through a lot of young players. The fans and the players absolutely love the guy, and they still sacked him. So you got to think for this new manager, what has he got to do to keep the job? That's the real question. So for me, you got to put Watford in, you have to succeed. You can honestly argue Hull should be in the same category, because I kind of put them two together in terms of the pressures and how erratic they are with the manager sackings, how erratic the ownership is. The pot says they're ruthless, we know that. I've got to say you have to succeed. That's just how it's been at Watford for God knows, for what, over 10 years. It's been like that at Watford, pretty much. Even if you succeed, you get sacked. That's how it works. Right, Wrexham. I think it's a little bit of leeway. I'm not going to say no pressure, because I think I put them in no pressure, but then they're going to sign a lot of players, and as well as that, Phil Parkinson's got like the worst managerial record in Championship history. If this guy starts the season poorly in the Championship, there's going to be fingers pointed and saying this guy just isn't at Championship level. If he starts that season poorly, you'll say he's done a bad. He got relegated with Bolton. He's had another job in the past in the Championship and didn't work out. His win percentage is shocking. That is going to get pointed at Phil Parkinson straight away. So you can honestly argue pressure. I'm going to put him in pressure because they're also, as I say, they're making signings. It looks like they might be bidding like $5 million for Lewis O'Brien, which is crazy. Obviously, a very good Championship central midfielder. Then, they've signed Ryan Hardy. They've just brought in Danny Ward as well, which is an interesting one. But yeah, I think there's pressure to succeed. In succeed, it's avoid relegation at the bare minimum. But like if he starts the season poorly, I think question marks will be pointed at him from everybody very, very quickly. And people are waiting to jump on Wrexham at any given opportunity. So let me know what you think of that in the comment section down below. Which manager do you think is under the most pressure? Let me know your club and how much pressure do you think your club and manager and fan base has got on the club to succeed this season. Let me know in the comments. I'll be very interested to get your thoughts. So if you enjoyed the video, do drop a like down below. If you're new to the channel, by the way, please hit that subscribe button. If you watch this point, you may as well hit that subscribe button. You've watched this point, it'll be very greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching anyway. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.